Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we take a look at the astrological energies from January 15th until January 22nd as we enter a paradigm shifting week with the sun moving into Aquarius and then having an exact conjunction to Pluto in Aquarius. We'll be talking about the powerful transitions that are underway with this annual conjunction, as well as an active Mercury in Capricorn this week and an extended conjunction between Venus and Saturn in Pisces. Now, before diving into all the specifics, I do want to update you with a few programming notes. First of all, my podcast is now hosted on Spotify. I just changed platforms last week, so there could be a few podcast distributors that do not have all episodes of this podcast just yet. It should be synced up within the next week, but YouTube is the place that has all episodes. So if you missed an episode or it didn't show up on your podcast player, it is because of the redirect in hosting. Thank you for your patience as this unfolds, but it will soon be smooth sailing again once everything is synced up properly. I also wanted to thank all of you who contributed awesome comments on the January 13th podcast episode that discussed the nodes of fate moving into Pisces and Virgo and how significant this cycle is with Saturn and Neptune also in Pisces, and that it references a previous cycle in 1523 and 1524. I've really enjoyed hearing more from you around that time period and the knowledge base that you have around that time period. So thank you for those comments on YouTube. And then a few of you have reached out asking me about a comment I made back in late October in regards to sending protective energy and light to California, specifically the trees, the forests, the bushes, the land, and if that was in regards to these current LA fires. And the answer is yes. I did see fires erupting in California, Southern California, but of course we never know when or even if these events will truly happen. And so this is how we work with our collective powers to neutralize and minimize the elements to the best of our ability and to support in any way that we can. And of course, anything we can contribute on a practical level is essential as well. I do have more to share with you at the end of this podcast about the patterns that are emerging with these events, as well as a heads up about FEMA fraud. I want to share with you an anecdotal story that affected my family around FEMA fraud in order to give anyone a heads up who might be faced with any of these catastrophic events. So let's get to what's going on this week here as we move into some very big energies. There is a presidential inauguration on January 20th. The World Economic Forum meets starting on January 20th until January 24th. This occurs every year in Davos. And we're also watching to see what happens to TikTok and what the legislation is around this social media platform. All of these being strong Aquarius energies. And with Pluto in Aquarius, these are also taking us to new places. These are powerful evolutionary energies that are unfolding and are going to be highlighted this week. Now, before the sun gets to Aquarius, though, the sun still has to journey through the remainder of Capricorn. The sun in Capricorn has two more important aspects that are made before leaving the 10th sign of the zodiac. And on January 15th, the sun in Capricorn opposes Mars retrograde in Cancer at 26 degrees. And this opposition is one of anger, fights, challenges. And to add to the mix, it's going to be even more accentuated and emphasized because Mars is out of bounds. And what that means is when Mars is out of bounds, there is more unruliness. It is more erratic, emotionally erratic, off the chain, overwhelming, and extreme. So here we have an out of bounds Mars in Cancer opposing a very grounded, strong, clear sun in Capricorn. And that sun in Capricorn is where we want respect. We stand in our integrity. We have personal dignity. We desire to make the most of our energy and our time, and we don't want to be pulled into foolishness. And you could find that with this opposition, there is an archetype that shows up for you midweek that represents this Mars in Cancer out of bounds. More emotions coming up, more things happening that you can't quite understand or get a grip on, because this is a Mars that is actually connecting to an unhealed inner child that has more emotional extremes. Now, Mars stays out of bounds until April 7th of this year, which continues to heighten the emotional experiences, triggers, responses, and unconscious immediate expressions that arise. This Mars in Cancer that is out of bounds can even be unreasonable and avoid conflict, avoid conversation, or even the desire to figure something out. There can be a high sensitivity involved, and the energy could show up as being overly defensive or prickly. I'm getting the visual of a porcupine here. But note that all transits can serve us in some regard. So this could be the energy of needing to remove yourself in order to tap in to more of what you need or want, and to recognize what patterns no longer work for you. Because Mars wants to assert itself and move towards a goal, an endeavor, something that calls to you. You could realize, wow, this isn't getting me where I want to go. And Mars in Cancer can really feel that energy, especially retrograde, especially out of bounds. So this is where that energy of what's not working for you is going to be revealed. It also could be a redirect into other ways of using your emotions or fighting for what you want or asserting yourself in some capacity. It could feel like there is a timeout here, that this Mars retrograde in Cancer out of bounds is out of the game, on the sidelines, and is needing to process at a deeper level in order to become more conscious. Now, I did a separate podcast episode for you on this Mars retrograde in Cancer energy and some of the themes that could be triggered or arising. But keep in mind that as Mars continues to stay out of bounds, there is the desire to be more unconventional, to rebel and not follow any rules or what anyone is telling you to do. There's a need here to also honor when you feel you need to remove yourself from an environment, a space, a situation, a conversation. If anything is being triggered by that Mars energy, it's probably best to give yourself a timeout with snacks in order to move through anything you're deeply feeling or responding to. So Mars has that opposition to the Sun in Capricorn exact on January 15th. And even on January 16th. Then after that, that Sun in Capricorn makes a sextile to Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees on January 17th. This can be the desire to work alone, to need time to focus, that you want to spend the day in your own energy. That Neptune in Pisces wants us to disconnect, and it could be that the more you step away from something, the better you're able to concentrate or focus. There is a seriousness with this Capricorn energy at this time, and you could be wanting to get some things taken care of and organized, and you don't want to be distracted. Plus, the influence from Neptune and Pisces could be that you're receiving guidance that you can only fully hear in your own space when you're alone. And with the Sun in Capricorn working nicely with this Neptune and Pisces, you might find that you tune into a flowing state more easily, that you can hear the information, the guidance, the direction you need to take. This can also give you inspired direction around elevating one goal to another version of it, or bringing in more of a creative influence that you can work with. If you're stuck, if you're feeling that the energy is dense and heavy, the sextile to Neptune and Pisces can help you let go of that density and flow with what feels good. Go into something that will light you up, even if it's just for a short amount of time. It's like giving yourself a reset where you're able to say, okay, well, the energy's flowing over here. Let me do this for a little bit. That will help refuel me and then bring me back to other priorities or matters at hand. So with this lovely sextile to Neptune and Pisces, trust where the energy is flowing, allow it to guide you, and also stay open to perhaps what is coming through that might even support you right now. Now on January 18th, 19th, and 20th, we're going to have an important connection between Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 15 and 16 degrees, and both are receiving a sextile from Mercury in Capricorn. Now, Venus has an extended conjunction here to Saturn in Pisces that lasts for 3 days. And that's because each planet, Venus and Saturn, moves from 15 to 16 degrees of Pisces together. And while doing so, they are sextiling that Mercury in Capricorn pragmatic thinking. Now, right off the bat, this can be a great aspect with these 3 planets for long-term financial planning. Understanding what you need to do differently, where you need to cut back and conserve, which is always what Saturn is about. When Venus and Saturn are conjunct, Saturn's energy dominates and brings your attention to Venus matters, how you've been using them, how they've been feeling, and what needs to shift and change, especially in the adaptable waters of Pisces. So you could be realizing that maybe you have some self-sabotaging financial habits that you need to phase out. Maybe you're spread too thin and you need to get rid of some things. There could be an area of your life here where you're realizing, I want to sell this. I don't want to keep this in my closet or in my home. I want to get rid of this and understand that it doesn't serve me right now. When Saturn is conjunct Venus, we can also feel a heaviness at times around what we're creating, what we're doing, what we've invested in, and how it feels. Venus in Pisces wants to feel good, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. She loves the creative realms that Pisces connects her to. And then here comes Saturn, that wet blanket of reality, and says, well, what are you doing with it? What are you going to do about it? And it can squash the parts of her that don't even want to answer that question. She just wants to be free and floating and to do her own thing. So the Saturn energy is bringing you into a reality check around what you really want, which is Venus, and looking at where your energy is perhaps not in alignment just yet with reaching that goal or creating that experience. Saturn can help with manifestation energies, believe it or not, because Saturn will show you what's not working and how to readjust it, how to make changes so that you are in alignment with that next level creation. This conjunction between Venus and Capricorn can also show up as an individual in your life who represents Saturn and or represents Venus. Venus and Saturn is the father-daughter connection. So Saturn can represent a father figure, an actual father, an elder, a mentor, a guide, a boss, someone with more experience, more skin in the game, and who is here to offer an understanding of how the real world works. Venus could show up as a feminine energy, a sister, a friend, co-worker who is seeking counsel or understanding, who feels lost, which can happen with Venus in Pisces, trying to find one's way, especially intuitively. And there is a suggestion of growth here in this transit where that Venus energy is maturing through an understanding that perhaps she was avoiding or she hasn't faced yet. And Saturn is saying it's important to look at this and take care of this. If you've been procrastinating, it will be a matter that can come up here with the Venus-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. Anything that you need to get taken care of can arise. Any of those appointments that need to be made for business or health or personal reasons, whatever you've been avoiding could come up front and center as Saturn is saying it's your responsibility to get this done and to ensure that it is taken care of. With Mercury in Capricorn sextiling both Venus and Saturn in Pisces, this Mercury brings in a strategic plan, a way to take care of what you need to get done. Mercury in Capricorn can help with assessing the way forward, the steps to take, how to have patience and dedication, and to the simple logical understanding of what's important. I feel that this Mercury in Capricorn is also assisting us in prioritizing anything you've put off and understanding that sometimes the anticipation of the thing is worse than actually doing it. And once you get it done and it's complete, you feel relief, you feel like it's over, and you wonder, why did I put that off for so long? So here comes this Mercury in Capricorn assisting with whatever needs to be taken care of and showing you which path to take, as well as the information that's needed, how to speak up or what to communicate, and also what tools to use. Because Mercury rules our devices, our apps and software, and what we use every day to do our jobs. So you might find that there's actually an easier solution or approach that you weren't even aware of, and that helps to move things along. So ultimately, this could be a very productive time period. You could feel inspired to work on a project with this connection between Venus, Saturn, and Mercury. Again, it's happening January 18th, 19th, and 20th, and it might be easier to make progress, especially if you can have time alone, because that is also a focus this week when we look at the Capricorn and Pisces connections that are unfolding. Remember, the Sun in Capricorn sextiles Neptune and Pisces January 17th, and then the following 3 days, Mercury in Capricorn is working with Venus and Saturn in Pisces. So these two areas of your chart where you have Capricorn and Pisces are syncing up this week, connecting, helping you with whatever's in front of you, and also asking you to invite in, again, your intuition, your creativity, your sense of flow, because you could be more productive than you expect simply by following where the energy arises. Have you ever looked at your to-do list and just thought, I'll go with whatever feels right and see where that leads? That's what this energy is. Instead of being overly logical or thinking I have to do it in a certain order, if you can just pick up where the energy is, it will help you advance. So as Mercury is sextiling Venus and Saturn in Pisces, we also have the Sun entering Aquarius on January 19th at 2:59 p.m. That's Eastern Time. The Sun enters into the 11th sign of the zodiac, associated with fixed air and represented by the water bearer. The name water bearer is why people will mistakenly think that Aquarius is a water sign, but no, rather that water bearer is pouring a new consciousness down onto the planet, allowing for the flow and movement of new ideas, new thoughts, new inspirations to arise and to elevate our previous concepts, plans, and perceptions. Aquarius is the energy of going higher to see beyond what we previously assumed or even what was traditionally experienced. And this is one of the changeover energies here in the zodiac. Now, every sign is very different from the sign before and after it. It's part of this interesting pattern that unfolds around the zodiac wheel, is that we move from the cardinal Earth energy of commanding Capricorn that's aware of what works, what's been done before, what is traditional, what is purposeful, what is realistic, and we move into the quirky, unexpected realms of fixed air that wants us to see things in a new light. So you can see what's worked before. Now let's change it up. Let's see what happens if we take it out of the box completely and play with new quantum potentials. And this is how Aquarius revolutionizes what was, challenges the status quo, wants us to look at things in a whole new light that can be uncomfortable, that takes us into new foreign territory, takes us off our feet. Aquarius is the energy of flying and flight, and wants us to leave the earthly realms and earthly perceptions to go higher in the cosmos, to encounter breakthroughs, wild insights, and even a new sense of our own genius. So the Sun enters Aquarius and then has a conjunction to Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degree 41 minutes on January 21st. And this also happens to coincide with the Human Design Rave New Year, which is the beginning of the new year in the human design cycles. Beginnings are strongly emphasized here on January 21st at nearly 2 degrees of Aquarius in your chart. And do keep in mind that for the next 19 years, the Sun is going to have an annual conjunction with Pluto that will also show us the influences of the next 12 months and what will be powerfully shifting, evolving, and transforming. This is going to show us what systems are effective and working, which systems are growing and expanding quickly, and which ones are not, which systems are not effective. They are breaking down. They are out of date. They no longer serve humanity. We're going to continue to see more expansion in the realms of technology, engineering, space exploration, intelligence in all forms. We reference artificial intelligence the most, but there's other forms of intelligence, believe it or not, that we also have access to. So we're going to see all of that coming through in this cycle in a very powerful way. When the sun is conjunct Pluto, it sets up world-changing dynamics, systems changing. So this can be through the internet, technology, connected systems, social media, cloud storage systems, the bigger platforms that connect companies worldwide, Starlink systems. You know, it hasn't even been 3 weeks into the new year, and SpaceX has already launched 5 missions into space in less than 3 weeks. So there's an acceleration in off-planetary devices, agendas, and missions. The sun conjunct Pluto in Aquarius is more fast-moving. It's accelerated changes that can happen quickly and overnight. They can be head-spinning. It can be like, what's going on now? What are we doing next? I can't keep up. There's all these things unfolding at the same time. And that is part of this energy, is that multiple timelines are accelerating at once. And so it can be confusing to keep up with all these different realities. This conjunction on January 21st is exact at 4:29 a.m. That's Eastern time. And it really is going to show us what will be evolving in the collective, especially the week after this conjunction. In fact, it feels like the rest of January is going to be quite dynamic, because we're also going to have Mercury entering Aquarius and making a conjunction to Pluto, the Aquarius new moon, Uranus stationing direct, and the Lunar New Year. So we'll talk about that next week. That will be in the last week of January. But as for this week, basically back up your technologies, save and resave, have backup databases and places that you have things for safe storage. There could be computer malfunctions, issues with the airlines, mass system failures, computer hacks, and cyber attacks. Cybersecurity issues could come up. And I'm going through this type of energy because it's plutonic. So think of the plutonic energy as it applies to our Aquarius areas of life. And when the sun is conjunct Pluto, the sun being the light, warmth, and consciousness of our collective energy fields meets up with what Pluto is intending to destroy and then rebirth. So it certainly ramps up the level of emotional experiences, intensity, hidden agendas, and reveals truth in what's been going on behind the scenes. Now, this also applies to science, data, studies, information, experiments that have been behind the scenes. Here comes that sun to show you the truth, to show you perhaps information that was previously not revealed. And when it comes to light, there are powerful responses around it. You know, we can see this showing up as shifts in Aquarian realms, such as social media and Facebook saying that they're no longer using fact checkers, and then also watching the fate of TikTok and what will happen to the social media app in the US. Social media is certainly going to undergo a really powerful change with this Pluto in Aquarius energy. And when the sun is conjunct it, things are even bigger. There's those bigger revelations and changes that can create shock waves. And that's one of the ways that these Pluto and Aquarius energies are going to be different than how we experienced Pluto and Capricorn. Pluto and Capricorn was a big deal, no doubt about it. We've all lived through enough experiences of Pluto and Capricorn to see how it changed the world, how it changed us and our personal lives, the trajectories of our careers, our life paths, what we want in this world, and how we want to show up in our lives. Now, this Pluto in Aquarius is going to be even more mind-blowing, revelatory, and uncomfortable at times, especially with the information that comes up and out. And again, revelations around the science, the data, and true information that can't be manipulated or controlled. And so as more truths are revealed that were previously hidden, especially by the powers that be with Pluto in Capricorn, now we're going to move into an expanded simulation, if you will. And we have to also pay attention to our own personal systems, including our nervous system, our emotional systems, our mental bodies, how we are processing and feeling during these shock waves and big changes, how you are prioritizing your self-care and your grounding practices, how you're able to move with the energy in a way that's healthy for you. Because the Aquarius energies actually expand us to be able to take in more of what's going on worldwide as well as galactically. So we're going to have more galactic energies arriving that we feel and we sense. I mean this more figuratively, but it will be literal as well. We already have galactic beings on the planet that have been living amongst us. That's going to become more obvious as we move through this cycle. But we're more open to connecting and receiving cosmic energies and off-planetary influences now that will also expand our consciousness and help us connect to a bigger perspective of what's unfolding on the planet at large. So even though we have our own individual experiences and we are responsible for our energy and managing it and maintaining it as needed during these accelerated phases, we also are seeing the bigger understanding of where we're going as a human population. And this will bring up more choice points individually and collectively, and this will show us how we are using our power and or how we are surrendering our power, especially by the overwhelming forces of these new technologies, computer systems, and devices that are starting to show up in all areas of our lives. More systems are being streamlined dramatically. As I say that, I'm thinking about travel and how biometric data, including facial recognition, is becoming the new norm for various IDs and passports. How countries and regions are now wanting more electronic tracking about who is coming in and out of their territories. Some countries have already had this, but it is expanding. Of course, we all have our individual data tracking devices known as our telephones, our smartphones, and those are now an integrated part of our daily lives. And there will be more developments happening at a very fast speed here as we move into more of this year. And all of that can feel overwhelming because we feel like it's all too big. It's already happening. It doesn't matter what I think or what I want or what I say. It's already unfolding and it's already in motion. And so these new technologies and ways of living can be both exciting and scary. And that's part of what our internal systems will be wrestling with and figuring out as we each adjust to these new realities on the planet. All of this is heightened here as we move into Aquarius season and powerful Aquarius energies, especially over the next 2 weeks. This year, the biggest changes in Aquarius are happening within that first decan of Aquarius. So 0 to 9 degrees is where the energy is really strong, even at 10 degrees of Aquarius, as that's where the Aquarius new moon will be on January 29th. This will also bring about powerful activations for those who are ready. Many light workers, starseeds, energy guides, and those with galactic codes are going to feel especially energized by these energies, that you're ready to go. You understand more of your purpose, your gifts, your talents. You feel that you're being elevated to that next level in yourself and in your life. This can also bring about a lot of creativity. You might be getting a lot of downloads and inspiration. You might be feeling that there's a lot buzzing within you, literally, physically within you. You could feel that your body is shifting and that your cells are more alive. You could also feel that you are beginning a new connection to the sun. And that is one of the powerful shifts that occurs with the sun conjunct Pluto, is that at a cellular level, you feel like you're coming alive, blossoming and blooming with these powerful energies, and that you are awakening to a new level of what you're here to do on the planet. So this can be incredibly empowering energy as well, and certainly supports our multidimensional expansion. Part of being multidimensional is that you feel like your energy is existing simultaneously in all these different realms, and it can be hard to ground yourself because on the one hand, you're over here typing, and on the other hand, you want to go over and create something and make it real or write it down, and then a part of you wants to go for a run, and then you realize you're starving. And the energy just keeps moving, and it can be very difficult to feel grounded or know what to focus on because you're almost being splintered or just pulled in all these different directions with this energy opening up and coming alive within you. So these powerful activations are certainly underway here in Aquarius season. Everyone will be feeling them differently depending on where they're at and what their focus is at this time on their path. But if you're feeling alive and inspired, if you're finally feeling like the energy is moving and that you're beginning an important chapter in your life, then yes, you absolutely are. And you've probably waited a very long time for it. And you've probably been through many cycles of change, purging, cleansing, stagnation, lots of uncertainty and doubt. And I hope that you are feeling these Aquarius energies usher in to support you into this new start and in what you're really called to do next, at least in this big cycle. It can be hard to sleep. You might have trouble sleeping because the energy is so juicy and spicy and you just are bubbling alive with it. You could also feel that it's really hard to settle. And so you need new calming techniques to settle the mind, settle the body, settle the emotions, and to connect to the support of Gaia, the grounded presence of the earth that is essential in order for us to make the most of our time and energy. So keep in mind, this could certainly be what you feel as the sun enters Aquarius and makes that conjunction to Pluto. You could feel reborn, rebirthed, rejuvenated, and ready to move into a state of greater creative expression and manifestation. And on that note, I wanted to be sure to mention that I will be doing 2 live astrology workshops on February 7th discussing your soul's new starting point as we're moving through powerful ending energies in Pisces and beginning energies in Aries. This is an online program that's designed to help you navigate all of the influences of the planets in Pisces and Aries, and also how to make the most of it with the North Node now in Pisces as well. There's a lot to discuss here, and so this is a separate program that offers you new ways of connecting with these energies in your chart to be aware of what is closing out as well as what is opening up for you. And if you can't make it live on February 7th, no problem. Replays are available and there is pre-recorded videos in this program as well. Now, this program is different than the 2025 Soul Growth Astrology program. It's also different from the Nodes of Fate program in Pisces and Virgo. All of my programs are different. I do not duplicate content. There's no integrity in that, and I wouldn't just repurpose and resell you something under a different name. So everything has a different focus to help you expand and understand it more. There's always more to teach in these specialty areas. So that's why I'm choosing to focus in on certain things that I think are really important. It just so happens that they are all happening around the same time. It just so coincides that we start a new year, the nodes of fate change signs, and then we have these big energies happening in Pisces and Aries. So they're all different, they're all designed to help you, and they all offer something different for you to understand in your astrology chart. So I'll put the links to these programs below the podcast episode here if you would like to come over and check them out. And then to finish up today's show, I want to circle back on what I mentioned earlier about the energies of this year unfolding. And so, yes, I did see wildfires happening in Southern California. And what is important from a bigger picture perspective is the patterns that are emerging. The patterns that are emerging with these events and how there are numbers and data that are highly underreported, especially in the mass media. So the numbers being underreported is very suspect and something to keep an eye on. But any other patterns that are emerging are important to witness and to remain cognizant of, because part of this time, especially with the strong Pisces influence, is to not just blindly believe what is presented. It's to stay in your cognitive power, to think it through, to connect the dots, notice the patterns, solve the puzzles, stay intellectually curious. These are the strengths of Virgo. And so being in that grounded understanding of what is going to help us maneuver through the mystery, the spells, and the delusions that are being presented or at least not fully reported. And then the other anecdotal story I wanted to share with you is in regards to FEMA fraud, because when these incidents happen, at least in the US here, there is assistance provided by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, known as FEMA, that is designed to support survivors of disasters and various catastrophes. And of course, there will be announcements about how much will be granted to those who have been through such a disaster. But unless you're in or experience a disaster, you wouldn't know how to claim or get any kind of FEMA aid or support. Well, in my family, back in 2017, an aunt and uncle of mine lived in Naples. And that's when Hurricane Irma came through, struck Naples as a Category 4 hurricane, which is quite a traumatic event. My aunt was in a critical care hospital dealing with cancer, and unfortunately, she did not make it through the hurricane. There were many factors involved, and so on top of a tragic Hurricane 4 event, my aunt died. She passed. And my uncle had been married to her for over 40 years, and they knew that she wasn't going to live long because of the situation she was dealing with. But he had no idea that he could qualify for any kind of FEMA aid. In fact, he stumbled upon it accidentally. And when he went to apply for his FEMA support check or whatever they called it, he applied and they told him this claim has already been filed and already paid out for his wife. And he's like, what do you mean? I just found out about it. I just filed the claim. And they showed him the claim had already been paid out. The money was gone for her name. And that's because when the names are published of those who have been victims of a disaster or situation, whatever the case may be, there are foreign entities who know how the U.S. government works in regards to the FEMA process. They find the names and they will file a claim and get it paid out. And then the money's gone. I'm only sharing this as an anecdotal story. Of course, I hope it's not system-wide. I hope it doesn't affect thousands of people. But FEMA fraud is real. They can't get the money back. Again, it's individuals in other countries who are able to work the system. And think about how you're just stumbling through a disaster or a tragedy. You don't know how these things work. And any additional funding or money helps. Back then it was $1,000. In 2017, it was $1,000. And then that was gone. So it's important to note that if you or any of your loved ones are in a situation that involves public assistance, hopefully you're able to take action sooner than later. Hopefully this never happens to you and this is never a situation you encounter, but I wanted to share it for educational purposes and to let you know that of course they're not going to disclose what isn't working on the back end or how widespread it is. So whenever they announce there's FEMA money for people in need, it really comes down to, but how many of those people really receive it? How many of them really get it? And hopefully there are new security measures in place. There's new protocols in place. Again, this was 2017, so hopefully things have improved and this is no longer an ongoing issue. But I remember hearing that, and my uncle wasn't the only one. So I just remember hearing that, and it always stood out to me as something to be aware of with any disaster or situation. So again, I share that with the intention of helping people act fast, if possible. It's not always possible, but more importantly, I hope that there are more security measures in place to prevent this type of fraud and to get the money to the people who need it most. As we move into Aquarius season this week, please be sure to keep your light strong, powerful, and clear. If you ever feel urged to send light out into the world, trust it. Allow it to move you into positive action. This is a time where we stay in our energy power. We use it with discernment and with authenticity, and we allow our light and powerful energy to travel where it needs to as needed. Wishing you a beautiful week ahead and hoping that you feel the high vibes that are flowing in and streaming through now. As always, I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. You can find all of my latest offerings at mollymccord.online, and I hope to see you in one of my online courses or workshops as well. Take good care, and I'll see you back here really soon.